everybody. It's Scottie with Juan Pablo, and we are here to have a conversation about all the stuff that we're covering in the course and explain it in a different format for those of you that might like to watch a longer video, and also do it in a way that's maybe a little bit more casual and informal, that exists kind of like just a conversation between us. So I'm Scottie Schneider, I'm the founder of Coyote. This is Juan Pablo Correa.
Hey guys, I'm JP, Juan Pablo, founder of Música and ally of my good friend and brother Scottie here.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I really owe a lot to you. You know, I was working with various places in the medicine before. I've been working with the medicine a little bit, but I hadn't really gone too deep into it. And you and Lena saw, Lena, your wife, saw potential in me. And we were in, I think, a Yopo ceremony, and we had a good brother of ours that was having a difficult time. And you handed me a tobacco, and he said, "You'll know what to do with it." Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like the initiation. And so for the last couple of years, I've been serving here at Música. I'm very honored to be providing service, to be growing and learning along with you, man. I'm very grateful to you. I love you a lot.
I'm very honored to have you, your presence, your medicine, your lightheartedness, and that coyote energy that you bring, and just the right moments to, when we're doing this work that's so serious sometimes, that spark of humor and laughter can also bring people into a different space, and also your generosity and your initiative to always make things better and more beautiful. It's really honored.
Thank you, man.
Very valuable for us as well. And we're just getting started. It's been a long journey.
Yeah, you know, we're on the cusp of launching the retreats in a way that both Karaka and Coyote can really do some amazing work in the world together. And I guess maybe we could start off with talking a little bit about what Yagé means to you, what ayahuasca means to you, and maybe how you found it in the first place.
Yeah, Yagé for me at the beginning, that first spark that I was able to receive with the medicine was down in Peru. Back when ayahuasca wasn't even known, or it's becoming more mainstream these days, and almost like a fad. I feel like I got a glimpse into like the raw version of it, and it was a beautiful opportunity to get in touch with parts of myself that really needed healing. I didn't really need that much healing physically, because I always lived like a somewhat healthy lifestyle and being an athlete and whatnot, but my mind, my psyche, my belief systems were like really off track, and I was really stuck in the persona that I was inhabiting during that time. So the opportunity with the medicine showed me a lot of things that I had to offer to the world in a different way. And it was a great kickstarter to begin to embark on this journey that's been, ups and downs as it should be, because it's not linear. It's something that is, sometimes we go down into a spiral and then we go back up. So it's been a roller coaster for sure. Yeah.
I found the medicine. My background is a homeschooled kid to a very conservative Christian family in North Carolina. Like, didn't get out much, didn't watch many videos. Then I went into the Army, West Point, if you can believe it. I know I'm a hippie now, but some of us fall far from the tree. But I spent about 7 years in the Army, and then went into the oil industry after that. And I was a barely functioning alcoholic, super unhappy with life, couldn't hold down a relationship, couldn't hold down a job. And I started traveling in about 2015, came here to Colombia. And it was about, I think in 20 or 21 that I found ayahuasca. First time I did it, nothing happened. And this is something that we've addressed and we'll address later in the course, about sometimes the medicine is working, but you don't feel it. But I persisted because a good friend of mine that was also a military veteran said, "You really got to keep trying it." And it has absolutely changed my life. I was able to leave the alcoholism behind. I was starting to be more successful in my personal relationships. I'm now married to a wonderful woman that's a good friend with Juan Pablo and Lena, and who's also in this course, Aleja. And it has given me what I was really looking for, which was understanding where I believe I fit in the cosmos. It gave me a cosmovision. Because like within ayahuasca and Yagé, there's this way of seeing things, like an understanding of Yagé as a spirit, or a belief in the creator, or Pachamama, or the sacred feminine and masculine. All these cosmovisions and indigenous viewpoints have really kind of molded in me to where now I used to be atheist, or at least agnostic, and now I'm a man of deep faith that has security in terms of where I'm at in the world. And that sort of happiness in life is very difficult to explain. You could have tried to explain that to me before, and I wouldn't have had any clue as to what you're talking about. So for me, Yagé and ayahuasca have absolutely changed my life. I've become a musician, and now we're building all this stuff together. So my hope for people is that they can start to understand how this medicine is used. The world is changing in a really rapid way. You know, AI and technology, and we seem to be becoming increasingly disconnected with each other, with ourselves, with Mother Nature. What do you think the role of Yagé is? Like, why now? Why is it becoming so popular now? Why is it leaving the jungle?
I feel like it's a message of the earth, of Mother Earth, and the spirits that have been custodians of this planet for many, many years. It's like almost like it's a wake-up call. That in order for us to really make a tangible change in the world, it's like we need to wake up and we need to do it quickly. So it's a way of the medicine scavenging and recruiting different people that are ready for the mission to be able to ascend into a different reality, which is not a reality that's in another planet, but it's a different state of mind. So it's a change in the belief systems. And what you mentioned earlier is very beautiful when you were saying how you became a musician, because it's a beautiful part that the medicine gives us with is it begins to awaken a lot of those natural innate gifts that we all come to the world with. We all have a specific unique medicine that's tailored for this specific human incarnation, and the medicine slowly begins to awaken that. So when we tap into that, it's very fulfilling, because we all, in a way, in one way or another, are here to serve ourselves, our families, and our communities. And also, like a quick tangent as far as that, there can also be fear when people, let's say, run a successful business or they're a pro athlete, that they may begin to steer away from that. It's like that fear of like, I don't want to drink the medicine because it might show me that this path is not in alignment with what I'm doing. But sometimes the medicine can make you even better at what you're doing, whether that's you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a chef, or you dedicate yourself to music or professional sports. It can go both ways. If the medicine does show you that, hey, you have these other abilities, and it can show you many different routes. So it's like also getting past that fear and trusting that the medicine is going to show you, and it's going to bring you that which entails that you need at that moment, you know?
Yeah. That brings up another interesting point. I think that modern humans, we're sort of locked in what we call the matrix, without getting too conspiratorial about it. It's like we're cogs in an industrial machine. We're meant to get a nice job and a nice picket fence with a mortgage and, a house and a wife and a dog, and to produce. And I think that we're, as humans, missing a lot of our creativity. I think that, humans, our natural state is to be living in happy abundance and creativity. Whether you're a musician or an artist or a painter, you probably did something as a kid, right? Or played a sport, or played guitar, or played piano, or sang, or drew, or something that you stopped doing eventually. And I think that's something that we're in the process of reconnecting with. So as the technological pace and advancements move past beyond, honestly, even human comprehension, I think that we're in the process of reconnecting to ourselves as humans. Like, what are we here for? Are we here to produce, or are we here to play? And maybe both, but I think that's a really important thing. Can you talk a little bit about the indigenous tribes and their view on medicine and how they've been carefully safeguarding these traditions for us and for humanity?
Yeah, the different traditions have been safeguarding the medicine for a millennium for a reason. So that's why it's good to partake in traditional ceremonies, so we can get an idea, first-hand experience of where the origins of the medicine come from. And that way we can have a more clear understanding of why things are done in that manner. And if you look at indigenous traditions, the medicine and the ceremony is a very small fraction of their daily life. So when we get a chance to immerse ourselves within the whole context of their lifestyle and community, we can really see that it's not just the medicine. So it's an entire lifestyle that's built around a way of seeing the world and a cosmovision of life. So just seeing them going out to hunt their own food, that everything is grown within the same territory, that not everybody is a taita, not everybody is a shaman, not everybody is a healer, but how each specific person is playing those roles, and they're just as important as the healer or the taita. There's the person that is kind of like the guardian that goes around the territory and makes sure there's no suspicious activity. There's the person that's in charge of growing all of the plants. There's the person that's in charge of, navigating different situations with neighboring tribes and creating alliances or working through different conflicts that arise within the different communities and threats that are coming in and out. So it's very beautiful to see that their life is almost like a whole ceremony in and of itself, and the way they experience the medicine can almost seem like very nonchalant to like the spiritualists and the whole New Age dilemma that we've kind of seen the world taking place.
There's so much good energy in this.
Exactly. So they're very kind of like sitting around, enjoying life, singing, dancing, like really tapping into what it truly means to be a human. And just seeing that, we can bring a little bit of that into our lives. So it's beautiful not just to sit in ceremony with them, but to also experience how they live, just different rhythms of life, the patience that they have, the ability for them to just sit around and contemplate. Because as you were saying earlier, with the creativity, the medicine is moving us from being consumers to creators. So we have to, in order to be creators, we have to, in a way, be rebellious, but not an immature rebellious, like being rebellious with a purpose, with an intention. So that means thinking for ourselves and allowing the mind to really expand without limits is something that the medicine and what these traditions also teach us. Within the fine confines of their tradition, they also allow, and especially from a time coming forth, more aperture for us Westerners that was not possible before. And the way that they're teaching us a lot of things that were very closed off in the past, because the tradition in one way or another has to live on. And a lot of what we see in the indigenous communities is that a lot of the teenagers or kids that are growing up in these communities, they don't want to learn the traditions. They want to be like us and inhabit cities and listen to rap and reggaeton and eat processed foods and party. So the elder,
I feel very sorry for them.
yeah, me too. But it's the reality. So it's a great opportunity for the mestizo movement, that in a way we're all indigenous people. So indios in Spanish translates to in, being God inside. So we're all indios, we're all indigenous. And in a way, the earth and how things work, it's like if we would have reincarnated as indigenous people, it's almost as if history would repeat itself and it would perpetuate the harm that we did, our ancestors did to these communities. So it's almost like we came back as a new way of being indigenous. So it's a very beautiful time, and it's a great opportunity to take on these teachings that they are now open to give us.
Yeah, I think that the general consensus is that the medicine is leaving the jungle. Mm-hmm. I feel that the elders have gotten the sense and the directive that everyone in the world needs the medicine. So that's why they're being open to come out of the jungle and serve it, like there are taitas going to Europe and the US and people coming here. I think it's a real incredible honor and a sign of their consciousness that despite the mass displacement, the cutting down of their rainforests, the abuse of their natural resources, and the real encroachment in terms of their way of life, they are still open to those that are willing to receive it, to share their medicine and share their knowledge with us. Because I want to talk a little bit about how this impacts Christianity or other belief sets in a minute, but if you had to say, paint it with a broad brush, knowing that each tribe and each person is slightly different, what is the overall cosmology or cosmovision of the indigenous? What do they believe in? Do they believe in one God, or how does that work?
So they believe in source, in the vastness of whatever that means to each individual. They believe in of being caretakers of life, which means caretakers of their surroundings, being nature, Mother Earth, that higher source, that higher power that can have infinite names. And they're grounded in spirituality, that it's not a doctrine, it's not a cult, it's something that they kind of leave it up to each person to find that unique connection with whatever God means to them. So that's also an obstacle that, or a question that might arise for people that might think it's a cult, or they think it's a specific deity or energy that they're praying to. Yes, there are spirits that are guardians of the medicine, that are guardians of nature, and also guardians. There's a lot of myths, as far as the Yagé. They say, some myths even say that extraterrestrial beings left the seed of this plant, knowing that at some point humanity was going to forget and get into all of this chaos and turmoil. So the tool was left for us to remember why we're truly here, to be those caretakers of life. So the overall vision, cosmovision, is to making life perdurar, to making life continue, the continuation of life. And so the preservation of our species, of our natural resources, the connection and reverence and honor for the elements inside and out, is really the fundamental principle of what goes behind their belief system.
Yeah, I'd say that you won't really ever encounter a taita that will say this is how it is, and this is like the deity that rules everything. Because in the Western world, we're sort of used to one person or the other. Whether you grew up Christian or Muslim or Jewish, which I think are probably some of the three major religions, they'll say this is the way the world is, and everyone else that doesn't think this way is wrong. You'll very seldom, or maybe never, encounter that in the indigenous tradition. So I had a very good friend of mine, Christian, very staunch Christian, come down, and many Christians that I've personally witnessed, usually the medicine speaks to whatever your cosmovision is. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Christian and you believe in Jesus Christ, then maybe Jesus Christ is going to come see you. You'll very rarely find in the medicine signals that will contradict what you believe. Because at the end of the day, I think the medicine leaves it up to whatever you really truly believe. And I think maybe at the end of the day, they're kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about source, well, that could be the Christian God, mm-hmm. or the Muslim Allah, or the Jehovah of the Israelites. And then if you think about it in a Christian perspective, the spirits of the jungle could be positive forces that God is sent to guard specific things. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of work through it. And I guess the main thing to do is don't fear that the medicine will completely change the way that you view life in terms of, at the end of the day, if it does, it's probably going to be in a good direction. Sometimes when you're talking about, I don't want to take the medicine because I'm a businessman, maybe that's part of you saying that the current way that you're living life isn't a good one, and there's some resistance there. So I guess the question is pretty simple. If what you have is working for you and you're happy and conscious, then stay there. But if you're not, then maybe open yourself up to the possibility of change. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'll just keep suffering. Yeah. Like, what is to you? What is Yagé? What is a spirit? Is it a plant? Is it a deity? What is it to you?
To me, it's definitely a spirit. It's a spirit that is here to help that ascension of consciousness, of awareness. It's a tool for self-understanding, for self-actualization. It's a tool that reconnects us to the primordial forces of life. So the primal, to the animal, to understand that we're sentient beings and that there's no hierarchy, that we're here just as equals, and to be in service to that greater good, which is the good of all, and to make the world more beautiful. than it is. And it gives us a lot of strength and courage because it's a reminder of who we are. And it's an opportunity to remember. Because when we come here, like you said, when we're plugged into the matrix, it's almost like when they take the picture in like Men in Black and they swipe your memory out.
Yeah.
The Yagé is almost like replugging you back into what this reality really is. So it's an ally. It's a friend. It's an ally and a friend that's here to help.
Remember, like to put yourself back together.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I view it as a doctor and a very wise spirit that, for some inconceivable reason, like wants us to be happy and healthy and whole. And honestly, still have no idea. I think it's such a blessing that the plant was put here for us, and I think that comes from the Creator. But it's like, I'm so incredibly humbled and grateful when I think about that. You know, it's like this entity that exists and has no other purpose than to make us feel better and be better. It's like, what kind of selfless love is that? You know, I think that's what Jesus was talking about, this agape love, this selfless love, the sort of love that like Jesus would put himself on the cross to die for our sins. Like we have real life that's happening now. You know, the plant essentially is sacrificing itself. In order to make the medicine, we have to cut the root and to take the leaf and we have to smash it up and boil it and cook it, right? So the plant's literally sacrificing itself to turn itself into a different form, like communion.
Right. That
Just came to me now, you know. Powerful stuff. Very, very grateful. And I think it's an entity that you have a relationship with,
right.
You know, and like, just like any other entity, like I kind of think of like a grandma, you know, like Abuela Gloria, my spiritual teacher, you know, she can be pretty cranky, you know, and if she tells you a thing and you don't listen, and she tells you a thing again and you don't listen, the third time she tells you, she gets pretty irritated at you. Hey, look, you know, I'm gonna have to teach you a different, harder lesson. I think the medicine is like that as well.
Right.
You know, so how do people know when they're ready? Because sometimes it takes a long time for people to overcome all these fears and uncertainty. How do you know you're ready?
I feel like you're never gonna feel truly ready. That's kind of like an ideal or an expectation that may be there the whole time. There's always gonna be some sort of resistance. There's always gonna be some sort of obstacle or, you know, something that's gonna not fully allow you to maybe make the decision right away, but it's like tapping into that intuition of the heart, because as we were sharing earlier, the ayahuasca is not only a friend, but an ally, a counselor, a doctor. And as soon as you get in touch with that spirit, whether it's, you know, through this video, and because the medicine is already inside of us and it speaks through us and it stays within our energy field for a long time, it's trusting that, you know.
Right. So maybe like when we talk about the call, it's kind of like a pull in your heart to maybe, okay, I'm very curious about this, or like I've had friends that have had good experiences, maybe this could work for my life. It's kind of those kind of feelings.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, what I would encourage you to do is, like, as Wampa said, you're never going to feel fully ready. Like, there's no place where you're like, I am ready. You're never going to feel that way. There's always going to be doubt and uncertainty, and in some cases fear, because it's very difficult to separate between the emotions of anxiety and fear and doubt. It's very challenging to kind of feel those out. So at some point it's going to be a leap of faith. And so what we're trying to do here is provide you the information and the background that you need to make an informed decision, without having you go and watch all the videos or read all the blog posts about somebody's good or horrible experience with ayahuasca. Because it differs. It differs for you every time. It differs in the medicine every time. It differs who you're visiting, who's facilitating, all that stuff. So listen to your heart and trust your own intuition. And over the process of taking the medicine, it's the intuition that gets stronger, right? The more you take the medicine, the better your intuition becomes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, could you talk a little bit about what people should look for especially if they're taking medicine for the first time? What should they look for in a facilitator or a place of medicine?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as the, similar to what is recommended when you're taking any substance, be it recreationally or guided, it's, set and setting, also having good referrals of the facilitator, maybe getting on a call with somebody that's organizing the retreat, knowing a little bit of background information of the mission statement of the retreat, what that specific place stands for, and whether that aligns with your values and your morals. And also, similar to what would be like the same calling as you would feel to begin to commune with the medicine, it's also like we're at the point now where we're in an age that's called the age of Aquarius, which means that everything
kind of new age, bro.
I mean, it's a real thing, where everything is transparent. Like back in the day, our parents didn't have that ability to perceive as much as we do now. Even if you're just a common person that's still, in the matrix, it's just like something has been lifted in a way that we can. It's like I'm a boss and I don't need to read a resume to know if you're a right fit for me. I can just look at you in the eye and feel you out and know if you're a right fit for what we're doing. So a similar, it would be similar when you see the facilitator, when you feel that person's energy, when you see pictures or videos of the place. It's something that you'll know. It's like a sense of knowing that, but also like good referrals and other people that have had that experience, I would say is a good start.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't go anywhere or take medicine with anyone without talking to them first. If it can happen in person, amazing, but a video call would definitely suffice.
Mm-hmm.
Use your intuition in terms of how you feel. Some of these traditions won't give you a lot of information about what goes on, and that's acceptable if you feel like you have a good feel with what they're going on. But talk to them first, which is why we offer and really kind of demand almost that everybody that comes to our retreats or that works with us talks to us first. So definitely talk to people first and know that there are other options out there. And if you talk to us and our particular retreat or way of doing things isn't conducive with how you want things to run, or if you're not getting a good feel, we'll do our best to find other qualified medicine providers. Because there are a lot of not qualified medicine providers out there. There's a lot of people that, Westerners are guilty of this, a lot. You take a ceremony or two and you're like, I've gotten the message, I'm going to become a taita.
Mm-hmm.
And they go down to Peru and they take a three-day course on how to do, they get certified, the stamp of approval to serve ayahuasca, and then these people go off half-cocked after 3 days of training and are trying to do the same thing that taitas or medicine women are doing after 4 years of training.
Right.
And it's like, it's a no-no. There are a few kind of no-nos or things that I'm like, don't do that, please. So talk to the person about their experience, about the lineage that they come from. It doesn't have to be necessarily an indigenous lineage. For example, Juan Pablo, you don't come from an indigenous lineage specifically. I obviously don't, if you haven't noticed. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad medicine provider. Like Juan Pablo is training from the Siona people, and so he's gotten the energetic chain of approval, chain of power. So there are places and people that don't look like you might expect. You don't have to always have a 4-foot indigenous person, but you do need to talk to them about how they trained and how long they've been serving the medicine and dig into it, because it's your right to know and it's your healing, and it's such an important thing to do because you're gonna be open and have things opened in you, around you, in ceremony, that if the person isn't capable of controlling that or safeguarding you, there's some definite harm that can happen.
I would like to send it back to you, maybe share who wouldn't be ready or who would this retreat not be for?
Yeah, that's a great point. In the Western world, we are very used to taking substances to fix things in our life. So I have a headache, I take a Tylenol. I use this analogy a lot, so sorry if you've heard this for the third or fourth or millionth time. And the headache goes away. The indigenous are going to look at this from a different perspective. Like, hey, what is going on in your life, or what are you doing in your life to produce that headache? Are you looking at the screen for too long? Maybe you should just take a break from the computer. Are you dehydrated? Maybe you should drink some water. So one thing that I see a lot of people coming, especially from the West, is this complete lack of responsibility for things that are going on in their life. So if you're not working on your life, and you're not ready to work on your life and do the hard work of changing things in it, you're not ready for the medicine. Because the medicine is not going to fix you. The medicine doesn't heal us. The medicine allows us to heal ourselves. It's a door opener and it's a perspective shifter. So sometimes if we're stuck or blocked, like for years and years, I had a lot of problems with my family of origin. You know, my father and mother kicked me out of the family, 15 years ago. I haven't been able to talk to my own mom. And the way that I was dealing with that was with alcohol, and it was one of the reasons why I couldn't hold down a stable relationship. And you can come into the medicine saying, oh, it's just going to fix me. That's not the right attitude. The right attitude is, I need help. I need a doctor to show me the things that I need to do in my life and the things that I need to change. So if you're the sort of person that goes into a doctor and says, well, I think that I've got a tummy ache, so I need this particular type of pill, and just please give it to me, and don't tell me that I need to eat well. That's not the energy that you should be coming into the medicine with. So I think that overall, you need to have a radical responsibility and acceptance and responsibility for your own life, and a realization that only you can actually change that. And if that's the case, if you're ready to approach this process with humility and surrender yourself to a greater power and people that can help you, that's, I think, a good reason to take the medicine. Would you agree?
Beautiful. Yeah, I would add to that. Yeah, similar to what you said, in the sense that you're not looking for a quick fix.
Yeah.
Because we've been so ingrained to succumb to like instant gratification. Instagram, everything is at a click of a button. And also there's a big market of what's called spiritual tourism, that are just, people that are looking for a psychedelic experience. So if you're not ready to really dive into the depths of the shadow and to do the real inner work with the real inner work, which sometimes isn't pretty. It isn't all like rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies. It's like getting into that nitty-gritty part of those aspects that we don't like about ourselves, those weaknesses, and really bringing those things into light, into awareness. If you're not ready to do that, then it's definitely a process that you're not ready for in this moment. So I would just add that to what you just said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. We're trying to step away from the Instagram. If you step out of the retreat, you've got 4 days of the medicine, and you want to like hop on Instagram and be like, hey, I just at the retreat. We have not done our jobs properly, and you probably haven't either. If you come out of a retreat and you're like, I need to take some time to like let this integrate and set, and there's some things that I know I need to change in my life, that's kind of what we're shooting for. So we definitely want you back for sure, but we are focusing on the quality of the experience and the depth of the experience as opposed to a wider reach. And we're focusing on real change rather than comfort. So we're going to make sure that you're comfortable and that you're well fed and well sheltered and that you're not unduly uncomfortable with outside circumstances, but it's definitely going to be some work. Well, would you want to go into a little bit of the explanation of how people should prepare for Yagé? Maybe the mentality, maybe the diet, and an explanation of why that's traditionally used in these practices?
Sure. Yeah, the diets range from extremely strict to more lenient and more flexible. I would recommend at the beginning to really put all your marbles in and go all in as far as the dietary protocols they have been placed for a reason, and they've been practiced for many years in this connection with the medicine. The food is very important, but it's not only the food, it's what we're consuming. Everything is food, everything is alimento. So everything that you're listening to, just like the music you're listening to, if it's like hardcore, like metal, like death metal, or hip hop that just talks about like sex and drugs and stuff like that, it would be recommended to try to fast or abstain from that type of stimulus, like minimum a week before, just because everything that we consume, we bring into ceremony with us. So it's like coming in with a clean slate that allows us to really get into the real work that needs to be done and to begin to fill our cup with new, beautiful ways of thinking, of being. And the music that's also shared in the ceremonies has a big role in the way that it begins to rewire our belief systems and ingrain a different message of how we view the world and how we walk in our lives and in our relationships. So my recommendation is to stick to that initial diet as much as you can, as diligently as you can. It's already putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, which is going to allow that transition into ceremony to be a lot easier for everybody, including us as facilitators.
Take a brief moment, just make sure we're still running, and then we're going to put that part out. Yep, all good, amazing, perfect. Yeah, great point. And this is also why we started the medicine music course, because I think everybody's a musician, everyone's a creative. And so whether you're singing or playing the guitar or the harmonica, try out some of that music, because you'll connect with it more in ceremony. And also, if you have to surround yourself with music, because I can't really do a lot of stuff without music, I've always got to have something playing. Put on some medicine music, because it's the message. We think that every music, every song is a prayer, and it has certain spirits associated with it. So like in ceremony, there's a particular way that we play the songs, and songs that we play, and moments in which we play them to really help smooth the process. Yeah, great point. So that covers the preparation, the mental preparation, maybe meditate or journal, and do your best to follow a diet, like less processed foods, cleaner foods. If you have to eat meat, well, maybe chicken or fish is a better option. That said, as you get some experience with the medicine, then you can be a little bit more flexible with that and find out what works for you. And I'm going to reiterate that if you haven't taken the medicine before, you really, really, really should stick with as close to the strictest diet as you possibly can. But those of us that are working with the medicine, sometimes red meat is actually necessary for us, because we've got a lot of energy expenditure. And over time, we learn how to integrate the lessons without such reliance on the cleanliness of the body before or after. So that's something that you can kind of flow with. Do you want to explain a little bit about how a normal ceremony works and what people can kind of experience in terms of the physical cleansing, and maybe, I guess before that, talk about how the medicine works in order of priority?
Okay, yeah, the medicine, once we drink the medicine, it's like you're drinking yourself. So everything that you can experience or see it's both. It's like a paradox. So yes, we're going into the spirit world, but we're also looking deep within the unconscious and the subconscious of ourselves and the body. So usually the medicine works at the beginning more on the physical body. It does like an initial scan of the body, which can look and feel like, different tingling sensations in the hands. Maybe the heart palpitations can go up a little bit. There could be some sort of nauseousness, which we call here in Spanish the chuma, but it's like it's a conscious nauseousness, kind of like a drunkenness, and an enhancement of all of the senses of tact, the hearing, the visual part. It's like you're more open, and it's an amplifier. The medicine is an amplifier of everything that's going on, so you're able to perceive more than you usually are. And that can also manifest in a lot of cleansing. The vine, which is the kapi, has a lot of the function of releasing a lot of toxins in the stomach. So anybody that has problems with the gut, food intolerances, allergies, parasites, the medicine is great to purge and to clean the body in that way, so you don't have all of these energy leaks and you're always craving sugar or craving different things. That's a main function of the medicine at the beginning, because that's completely linked to the ability for us to have peace of mind in our day-to-day, and we're not constantly being distracted by all of these impulses. So it's getting past those impulses. The medicine begins to do a lot of cleaning in the physical body, and also going to the bathroom. Number 2, you can go to the bathroom probably 10 plus times during the night.
Infamous bottom.
And you're like, oh my God, where is all of this stuff coming from? And it's incredible, the magic and the mystery of how the medicine begins to work. And then it goes on from the physical body to the emotional body, the mental body, getting outside, leaving the ego to one side and allowing that full connection with the ground, with the astral plane, with the akasha, all that information that is in the spirit realm. But we have to go through those pillars, and sometimes the first ceremonies can be difficult or uncomfortable because they're doing that groundwork. So the path of the medicine in general, and the path with Yagé specifically, is like the metaphor of the turtle. Slow steps but consistent. So the medicine slowly begins to give you things that you're ready to receive in the time that you're ready.
Yeah, it's really marvelous because it gives you what you need when you need it, and it's usually not what you expect, you know. So that's kind of what we tell people to go in with an open mind. And you mentioned about purging and diarrhea there, you know, the bottom purge, number 2. And that holds a lot of people back from their first time taking ayahuasca because when we're used to vomiting, it's usually a very negative, nasty experience. Usually we got food poisoning or we're, you know, 3 in the morning, like drunk off our ass. And it's a very different experience here. You know, this is a purgative medicine, which we don't have a lot of in the Occidental or Western world. And it's anti-parasitic. It gets things out physically and spiritually of our body that we need. And I don't know of any purgative medicine really in the Western world. So this is just a different way of medicine. So I would encourage you to move past that fear. You'll really, really start to appreciate it, I promise. And you're gonna not believe me until after your first ceremony. And then once you purge, you'll be like, oh man, I was waiting for this my whole life kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I would like to share a little bit on that you just shared. That just the fact that the purging can sometimes be difficult and uncomfortable makes you really appreciate the aftermath of what that brings. Similar to when you first feel the call, there's that initial fear. On the other side of that fear, there's beautiful gems and gifts waiting for you on the other side of that. So what the pharmaceutical companies have done and are trying to still do is to isolate only the pretty compounds of Yagé or of psilocybin or different plants to just give you the beautiful vision and the harmony and the clarity without all the difficult parts of cleaning the house, cleaning the body. Because again, we're in a society that we want everything so easy. But when things aren't easy, we truly appreciate it. When we're done with the ceremony, we're like, fuck, yes, like I did it. And that's something that nobody can take away from you. It's a feeling of accomplishment that sticks with you and that translates into your day-to-day, in your work and in your family. You can touch back and remember that moment and say like, okay, I can do this. And life becomes a lot easier.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I love that analogy actually, because if you think about all the things that modern science, not saying that modern science is bad, but all the things that we've sort of processed, like we've taken the natural parts out of sugar and we get white sugar, which gives us diabetes. We have taken out the pain-killing compounds of various plants and we turned them into opiates, which are killing thousands of people. I don't know what it is per day, I don't know the numbers, but it's killing a lot of people. It's getting you addicted. So it's like, be very wary of things taken out of their natural context because in my opinion, the creator, or if you want, evolution, has designed those things to not be as harmful as when you extract things out of them. You can't get the light without the shadow. You're going to try as hard as you can to just get the light, but there's always a shadow. And usually, if you try to eliminate the shadow that comes is worse. And I don't really know a better way to explain that. So you're right, you can't abstract these compounds outside of their natural context, and it's a good thing for the body to go through suffering and to go through challenging times. Like that's necessary for us as humans. You know, it's like if you put an astronaut up in space and they don't have any gravity on them, what happens to their body? It breaks down. They become weak, and that's a spiritual equivalent, I think, to what we're doing, you know,
right,
kind of in our life. I love that, brother. Are there any suggestions that you would have to people that are, I guess, what would you like to talk about, or where would you like to take people from here? What kind of things about you?
Yeah, I feel like what we talked about a little bit as far as like at the beginning, we in a way come all searching for healing, for clarity, for guidance, for kind of like a light and purpose in our life. But eventually, as you delve into this path more, there comes a point where the hero's journey becomes the artist's journey. And that's why we've also incorporated the medicine music school, whether you're called to play the guitar or just sing or play the drum, because there has to come a point in the healing journey where, like, even if we heal every single thing in our life, like, we're still gonna die. So there has to be a point where, like, we're feeling a sense of fullness in our cup, where we have to begin to share in whatever means that may look like for each and one of you. And we've noticed that the arts, singing, dance, expression, the opening of this throat chakra is super beneficial for our own healing. And then once we begin to embark on that journey, we begin to receive different things from the medicine. So it's that encouragement that there's many things that are going to begin to flower within yourself, that it may surprise you, like, wow, I had this ability, or I want to get into, different things that you wouldn't usually on your day-to-day think about. So it's opening a huge treasure chest of things that are going to be very beneficial to live a full life.
Yeah, I love that. And my personal experience is that you may spend years working on yourself, but there's going to be a point in time at which the medicine tells you and you feel that it's time to start working with other people or for other people or giving back in a certain way. I kind of say it like a little bit humorously, there comes a point where you decide that you want to help other people or you're kind of a dick, So like, look for that point inside yourself. Don't try to do it right away, because sometimes we can try to help people as a way of preventing ourselves or delaying our own work.
Right.
So that's a decision only you can make. But you can start looking for ways to give back immediately. Maybe there's a cause of indigenous people that you want to support, or there's a nonprofit that you can support with, or start in your own country, or go to a soup kitchen, or be nicer to people. Look for ways to foster the healing of growth and the overall art of living well, as they say. I think that we'll probably leave the explanation of kind of how a ceremony works, maybe for the rest of the course, because we don't really need to go into that. But I think this is a pretty good overview. I do want to touch on the respecting the indigenous traditions. This is a thing that happens a lot. Sometimes we're overly spiritual in the Western world because we've lost connection with our spirituality. And we come down and we put the indigenous people on a pedestal. They deserve honor and respect because they've been safeguarding these traditions and these plants and these ways of ancestral healing for thousands of years. And they need to be respected. But they don't need to be put on this pedestal. We as Westerners don't need to castigate ourselves or be full of white guilt because of what our ancestors or other people that look like us have done. So there's a balance here in the middle that really kind of boils down to humility and respect. And so if you come in and your taita is serving from a plastic cup and it's not the porcelain or crystal vase that you had expected, have some humility. They live with this medicine on the daily, and they do it with the utmost respect for them. And it may not look like what that means for you. So don't try to overcompensate with a lack of spirituality by overdoing the ceremonial or overdoing the guilt. That would be my kind of my advice there. And be very careful. If you go down to Macola or you go down somewhere in the marketplace in Medellin, and you can buy all the fancy beads and the jaguar or the boar tooth necklaces. Those are essentially military insignia. They're rites of passage and markers for those that are in the medicine that are an example of the milestones that they passed and the power that has been imparted to them. So be very careful before you start dressing yourself up like a taita. Maybe ask someone, ideally a taita, as to what those specific things mean and what would be appropriate for you. It's not an idea of cultural appropriation, it's an idea of respect and an understanding that, frankly, if you're going into battle and you're a newbie, you're a private, you don't want to be putting a pink uniform on and feathers, because they're going to be firing at you, man. So maybe that's the thing that I didn't even consider about before.
Target.
Don't make yourself a target unnecessarily, and just approach things with respect. What else do you feel like we should cover in this discussion?
I think we've covered pretty much a lot of the important aspects of the medicine, where it comes from, its origins, the traditions, what you can expect in ceremony, how the ceremonies run. So we encourage you guys to, tap into the course, to enjoy it, to take things as they are. Don't believe everything we say, question things as well. And we're also here to navigate through any questions that you may have, and feel free to talk to us as a friend.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, like Wampa said, don't take anything anyone says as the ultimate truth. The ultimate judge of what truth is and what works for you is your own experience and your own intuition. So investigate, but don't investigate too thoroughly in the sense of like, sometimes there's something as over-information.
Right.
Because the more information you put into how things should be, the more mental frameworks you will have when you go into ceremony for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And basically everything, in my experience, that the mind does, thinks, or acts, is opposite of how the medicine needs to be. So this is more a process of surrender, but you have to get yourself to the place where you intuitively feel that this is a place and a space and people that you can trust. And until you get to that point, continue doing research. Once you get to that warm and fuzzy, maybe consider preparing more and not doing so much research.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I guess, what I would say there. Well, brother, I'm sure we'll find as we go along other topics and talks that we'll want to have, but I really appreciate and value your time and willingness to be spreading this information and to grow this wonderful project and organization and our organizations that we have together, man. Thank you. I value you and thank you for your time.
Likewise, brother. It's a pleasure. Love you too, man.
Let's go.
Take care, guys.
See you guys.